We have quorum. I see everybody's there. Can I get a quick confirmation you got sound from the boardroom? Craig, can you hear us? Or, yeah.
I can hear you.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 9:02. And we would like to acknowledge and respect the Indigenous peoples within Indigenous territories and lands we are meeting today. We have before us an agenda. Can I have someone, unless there's any updates or changes or reorders? Can someone, Tom?
Second.
Seconded by Kate. Any objections? Seeing none, that passes. We have the minutes before us. Are there any omissions or updates or questions from the minutes? Okay, we'll move receipt of those. We got last minute confirmation yesterday that the representative from the Nelson Tennis Club was unable to make today's meeting, so we will reschedule that at a convenient time into the future. And that takes us conveniently straight into our staff reports. 7.1, starting with school skate instruction program. Tia, can you take us away?
Through the chair, thank you. Good morning, everybody. So this is the second report that we have submitted for the school skating instruction program. The first report that we had didn't provide all of the financials. We provide a little bit more of the outline as to what we were thinking for offering this program. So this report here is coming to you with a little bit more of that financial background as to what is required to develop and support the creation of the school skating instruction program. So one of the goals that we wanted to make sure were going to be included with this financial analysis was that we wanted to obviously minimize the budgetary impact of the program as well as improve the sustainability of the program. So fortunately, we were able to offer this program within our annual budgets. That was something that we were really happy to be able to say. How we were pricing out this program was on a per student rate in order for us to be more consistent with how we do our other school-based programs within the RDCK, like swim lessons. And we were managed to keep it within a very similar price range for what we're charging for our other types of lessons that we do. So we did land on a $9 per student rate. This covers our direct costs for staff, operating supplies, but one thing we wanted to really make sure that was understood is that subsidy commitment that we were providing towards this program. If we were running this at its maximum booking capacity over 26 weeks over the arena season, it looks around to be about $11,500 of subsidy, like public subsidization commitment. So in a community that has two arenas, that subsidy commitment is obviously higher because it does cost more to operate two arenas versus a community, let's say in Preston, maybe it only has one arena. And then it does obviously cost a little bit less for those facilities to be able to operate. So our aim for this program is to start in January. We are still in the process of finding a specialized recreation instructor to be able to lead this program. However, in the previous report, we had stated that there are alternate solutions to using leaders, although the level of instruction is probably not obviously as high. The students will still have opportunity to be on the ice and do have led activities. And because we are doing this in other facilities and other communities, we will have other we do know that there are going to be specialty recreation instructors for this skating program. And so it's those instructors that can help lead some of the other leaders in the other facilities to be able to provide this kind of instruction. and just amplify the service that we can offer than just a regular leader or a regular fun skate that we normally see in our facilities. So other than that, I don't know if we have any other questions, but it's a positive. It's a positive that this program is going to be operating in January.
Okay, thanks, Tim. We have a question from Director Newell.
So I have a couple of questions, if I could. Thank you through the chair to staff. So this is a program that will be offered to schools. And I just wonder what the uptake is at the school level, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand the question.
Have you communicated with the schools?
Yeah, what's the interest from the schools themselves?
Oh, the schools are going to be receiving packages and information about being able to book these times. They currently are able to book times, and so we will reach out to those that have already booked into January to let them know that this option is available if they wanted to, I guess, quote unquote, upgrade to a lesson format. They could.
Supplemental.
Go ahead.
The $9 per student, how would that compare to just a skating class that the school might sign up for?
So if the school wanted to just rent the ice, an ice rental looks a lot different than this program that would be led by an instructor. A fun skate would be no different than kids coming in and just going for a swim. So as far as cost, off the top of my head, Joe, I don't know if you remember that. What is the cost of the rental for the ice?
For non-prime, I got so many costs going through my head.
I have it here. Is it youth nonprofit, non-prime?
Yeah, youth non-profit, non-prime.
9506.
How many kids can they? I'm just wondering what it's. I'm just, we'll see what the schools say. I don't want.
Yeah,
we'll see what they.
Tia, what was the minimum number? I think it was
The minimum number was 20 kids on the ice. Maximum was 30 in order for us to be able to adequately lead and instruct children through the hour.
Like that 95 for 26 bookable hours is like 2,400.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's its own rents it. If that's if the school comes, rents it, they're going to bring their own leaders.
Right. So I'm, if I may, just trying to understand the numbers. So there's already 26 hours. The school rents it. They rented for some kids. They're going to just run around and supervise it themselves. They pay an amount. Is that subsidy amount of 11,500 still in play? Like, is it all? Because I don't understand what that is really. So maybe a more important question is, I don't understand the subsidy 11,500.
So two things. So the rent is probably easier to understand. Well, the rent is not quite easier to understand because the rates are not what they're supposed to be. So usually that youth nonprofit should be 50% of actual costs, right? Yeah.
That's 75.
But this is, no, that's for programs. So
ice rental, 75%. I'm looking at it.
No, that's programs. Ice rentals for youth nonprofit is 50%.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
What am I looking at?
Those are just the rental rates.
That's what we're talking about.
No, but so what that represents right now is less than 50% of the actual cost of providing that hour of rates.
What is that 75%?
Oh, 75% just means that the nonprofit rate is 75% of the prime rate.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, good catch. I was on a different, 75 happens to show up under programs too. So that was just trying to create that relationship between
I gotcha.
non-prime and prime.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So when it comes to programs, youth are actually 25% of our total cost. So when we run a program, the target rate for youth is 25% of all costs required to supply the program. So that 11,700, so what we did for this program, that's the easiest way to explain it. So, there are 2 arenas in Nelson, 1 arena in Creston. The arena in Creston, because it's 1 rink, has a higher utilization of arena time. Of course, just to know, this was done before we knew it was happening with the Civic Center. So, so because of that higher utilization rate, their rate is technically low. So the rate that we cost things on, but because we're rolling this program out across the regional district, we didn't want there to be 1 rate in Nelson and a different rate in Creston or Castlegar, so we based it on one arena. So 1 arena's full cost of what it would cost to operate based upon those utilization rates. So that 925 represents 25% of the entire cost to offer the program. So that's 100% cost recovery rate for arenas, all the instructor costs, all the administrative costs of setting up that program. That represents that the actual 925 represents at 20 people being in it, represents 25% of that cost. The 11,700, that represents what the cost, so what this calculated cost is, that would be subsidization.
May I just clarify that therefore the cost per 26 hours is 11,500 plus the amount gained.
Correct.
Which equals $623 an hour to run the arena.
Yes. Oh, no, sorry. In this case, you're including instructional hours, not just an arena rental.
Yeah.
There are some costs
Yeah,
in the 26 hours besides just ice.
Or just, right, you have the cost of the employees running the program.
Through the chair, I'm going to riff off that because this is something we've been talking about for the 2 years that I've been sitting here, is this cost per hour to run the ice. And I think that it was built a few years ago and scaled up by the CPI, if I recall. I think we need to see that breakdown. I talked about this a while ago, like where does that come from? Because I think it'd be really helpful for people to see, okay, there's this much per year, and then we'll divide it by the hours, like wages and work safe and blah, 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 and this much per year Fortis bills, and this much per year toilet paper. Like, I think it's important because that 400 and whatever it is, and I know it's around 450 per hour in Nelson, blows people's minds. And so we need to see it, especially if it was built 5 years ago and it's been scaled.
2017.
Yeah, and it's been scaled by the CPI, which isn't, I actually dug into that. I was like, that's not unreasonable. I did it with peanut butter and I did it with gas and I did it with something else. And I was like, oh yeah, that works pretty well. But I think we need to be careful because we have a bunch of documents that have that 450, and now we have a new document that it just throws out this 11,000. And people will be like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, where does that come from? And if we're looking at that operational, that overhead, that turn the lights on, people need to understand what that is, really. So I know that's a big job, but it needs to be on a piece of paper somewhere more recently.
Yeah, and so, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we've been communicating through all rec is that 2020 was supposed to be evaluation year. That was COVID. 21, 22, 23 was still impacted. 24, we still haven't seen full in some places, we still haven't seen full operations. So we're hoping that 25, that we'll use 24 to get a little bit of a different, to try and wiggle something out there. It's going to be difficult because we still have been impacted by staffing shortages in certain areas of Middle.
But, and if I may, and maybe this is a question that might be more for Yev, but I think I understand that when you're doing this cost per hour, you're using this utilization, which in my nerdy mind is like a circular argument. You're like, well, it only gets used this much, so we have to include that in the thing. And I think what the public needs to know is what is the cost to turn the lights on, not what is the cost based on the utilization.
So what the utilization cost is based on that cost to turn the lights on. So when we do that evaluation, we'll definitely, if that number is a value, we will do it.
Yeah, because in 2024, now we're down to one sheet for 4 months or whatever it is. So now you're in another new hot mess where it's like a blip.
Agreed. I like the new hot mess.
Could write that down.
I agree completely. You know, it's been the best laid plans have been somehow every year since.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, any questions from the cloud?
And I just,
Go ahead, Tom.
so thanks. So I was in no way commenting on the program. It was just opened, I ripped off the report to try and gain some more understanding. So this, maybe we're going to talk about it a bit in the next one as well. So I think I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for the supplementals, etc. Chair. Thank you, staff.
Thank you for growing staff. Comments that I have from a bit of this discussion is, I think there is an opportunity. The report was great and it tells us a lot. And it's interesting and that staff sees this as something that would be rolled out throughout the complexes because that's great to deliver even services. One place I think we could improve the reporting is a standardized table that if there's a subsidy coming in, then we can always kind of capture that as a table. You know, costs in, costs out, lay it out, put the rate in. We see enough of it, I think, if it's just something a little bit more apples to apples compared to when we're looking at that side. All the arguments on which numbers feed that table, but there's a uniformity in presentation that can happen here. I think it'll be easy to read and compare. And I would see the conversation we just had about the $2,470 cost that goes into just rental is a good comparator to see where we're landing, just so we know what we're doing.
What number?
If you take what was the rate?
95.06.
Yeah, 95. There's 26 booking hours per year. So if the school was just renting that at full capacity, we'd be bringing in 2,470. And that's still subsidy.
Sorry, and it gets more. You're right. An absolute table would help. Tia, is that clear? What's being asked? Like this is a good opportunity to talk to our commission about what would be more clear information for them to be able to understand and make decisions on it.
Yeah, through the chair, definitely. This is good feedback as to how you want information presented for different financial breakdowns. Definitely. Thank you.
And Tia, if it's not too much, is it possible to generate a table to distribute to commission of this report? Those costs we talked about, is that too difficult to spin up and send around?
Yeah, sorry, would you like this before next meeting, or when would you like this?
So through the chair, Tia's sensitivity to that is she's also heading off on holidays for 2 weeks on Friday, so she's just trying to get a sense of the urgency related to providing information. So if next meeting is fine, we could do that. I'm seeing.
Budget in November.
Yeah.
No, we're fine. Commission seems fine with it. You can rest easy for now. Go ahead, Kate.
The other like cost comparator would be the $4 entry fee. If you were just going to a public skate, that's what it would cost for youth is the $4. So here I had a curiosity, is skate rentals usually extra, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so here the students would get skates if they need them, plus the instruction, plus the entry is more how I would visualize it, as opposed to renting the ice. That's how I would visualize it.
I think, but through the chair, I absolutely look to Kate's, like when we did this budget, so there was the cost of the ice at full cost recovery, all the costs of employee time, costs of all supplies that may be necessary, cost, an overhead amount added to that, and then we took that amount, divided it by a minimum number, so 20, and then divided by a minimum number, and then multiplied that by 0.25. So that then equaled the rate. Okay, so we'll try and put that into a broader kind of a scale for you.
Go ahead, Tia.
I through the chair, I would just say that $9 is ensuring that this program can run across the regional district, and this $9 is more reflective of a community that has one arena as opposed to two. Because if we did the math, it would be closer to 10, 11 or $12. Sorry, I can't remember that number in my head.
Okay, and that's an attempt to provide the same rate no matter where you're at. Correct. The material.
That's correct.
It'll be interesting to figure out how we adjust to that in the future. Okay. Everyone clear as mud? So to be clear, Joe, sometime during budget, we'll get some more detailed deep dives into the cost allocation on the ices Kate was bringing up earlier. Is that feasible?
We, through the chair, that's really a 2025 project when we have all of 2024 accounted for. We all of our budgets look at that piece, but it's really quite a bit of work. The reason that in the fees and charges policy, it only talks about that being reevaluated every 3 years is because of the amount of work that it takes to go into a deep dive across the whole regional district.
So just for my clarity, does that mean we just need to wait until 2024 is completed, or or do we need to wait for the ICE user groups to be completed?
No, so through the chair, it's 2024. We do it on a calendar year because that relates to budgets.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. We'll keep our radar on it. We have a resolution here. The recommendation that the Nelson District Recreation Commission support the development of the school skate instruction program run in 2025, moved by Newell.
Second.
Seconded by Kate. Any objections?
Discussion?
Go ahead, Newell.
No. I was being silly, I'm sorry.
You're a little wacky. Seeing no objections, that carries. Thanks.
Thanks for the report, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the discussion.
Yeah.
The next thing we have on our agenda is the staff report for the Nelson District Community Complex Program update. And again, we are going to Tia, it looks like.
Through the chair, thank you. Yeah, we're busy this meeting. Okay, so this programming update, we were very excited to be able to provide because as some of you know that were around last year, we made an attempt to provide data to the commission for as a better way of understanding how the business is going. However, this attempt proved to be quite unsustainable as far as being able to collect the data. We didn't have a good process in place of who was collecting, how we were analyzing, and so we had to scratch that, go back to the drawing board, and formed a data collection committee to develop a more sustainable data collection and analysis process. So this was we've been working on this throughout the year, and this is our first report using this new process. While we still have to work out a few kinks, we were able to provide a programming update to give you an understanding as to how we're doing. So the report starts here with some of the financials in regards to user fees and admissions and the total subsidy utilization for programming. So both of these are on track as far as percentage utilization. And we don't actually see any foreseeable issues going into the fourth quarter. There weren't any big red flags for us as far as utilization. There were some revenue streams that have come in a lot higher than we had anticipated, so that's actually quite nice. And as far as the financial piece is concerned, we're looking pretty excited going into 2025 as we create our budgets. So as far as the summer programming statistics, we start with our group swim lessons. Sorry.
Would it be okay to ask questions per section?
Yeah, Tia, we've got a question on the table. Are we okay pausing and reflecting on what was just said there?
Sure.
Can I get the definition of two things? IWA, which is admission.
Included with admission, yes.
Included with
Admission.
Thank you.
Is that one?
Well, it's just in the first paragraph or second paragraph under background, there's the term included. And lean.
Lean.
Oh, lean. Lean is a practice that we are starting to incorporate into our daily
What does it stand for?
routines.
It's a management practice.
I know, it's like,
Is it an acronym
Yeah.
or a thing?
I'll tell you what
yeah, that's where I
Yeah, no, I just wondered what it stood for. I assumed it was a thing. So anyway, thank you. Included with admission. Thank you.
It's not an acronym, but
Not accurate.
Yeah, no, it's not a.
it's not an
it's supposed to be define, measure, analyze, improve, control, but probably got lost in translation from the. I'm not kidding. It probably did. Just a flag for that for the future, Tia, because these are also public reports. We'll never have everyone who knows what any of the acronyms mean. So all acronyms. No, but it's public, so all acronyms need to have their full breakout. So you're gonna have to write them.
I did with included with admission, sorry.
Okay,
I didn't see it.
and it's okay, great. Good job, then.
You're working with a lower common denominator here.
That's okay. You have a lot of reports to read. I understand.
Nice little math jab there. Okay, let's continue on, Tia.
Okay. Were there any questions more about the financials before I move down into programming statistics?
Yes.
Go ahead, Kate.
Can you tell me, like, just from one of the lines there, because now I see arena revenue or arena expenses. Can you tell me what's contained in the sublines of like revenue and expenses? Is it just admission in the revenue, admission and rentals?
Oh, yes. So with arena, the revenue is the program registration revenue that we see when somebody registers for a program.
Okay. And the expenses?
And the expenses are everything that we put towards that work order number salaries, overtime, benefits, operating supplies. I mean, maybe not for arenas, but like all of the other accounts, travel, employee health and safety, everything that goes towards an arena employee and an arena program.
So not the 450 per hour.
Correct.
I'm with you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the financials before we progress?
Can I just make a comment just for commission?
Mm-hmm.
So as of about the third day of September, maybe it was actually day 1 of September, this is the earliest that the center has generated $1 million. You're well going to surpass. So membership, the revenue collected through memberships and general admissions will surpass 1.21. In fact, I know to the first 15 days of September, there was about, I believe, I'm not going to be, just don't quote me on it. I believe it was $46,000 was already generated in the first 15 days, which you would put on top of that 996. So that particular piece of revenue, Nelson service is almost ahead in every area of revenue generation, so just to know that that part of our operation is doing very well.
Go ahead, Tom.
You know, these meetings are great because I read this and I see the numbers, 95,000. And then just as we've been talking, it's like, what is not year to date, program area, year to date in red, 95,500. What is that number? It's a revenue of something. And how do you know what's recreation? Like, so sorry,
No,
that's right. I started thinking about it.
And I think, sorry, I'm probably speaking too much.
No,
So
that's
we've
right.
we've got fitness, we've got aquatics. What gets captured in recreation? That's not fitness or aquatics.
Go ahead, Tia.
Go ahead, Tia.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah. So recreation is everything else that we offer that is not arena, fitness, and aquatics. So we've got all of our youth and adult programming that happen outside of a pool or outside of an arena. We've got camps. We've got any like dry floor sports that we've done over the summer. But the majority of this revenue and expense comes from summer camps.
Supplemental.
Go ahead, Tom.
So the $996,000 year to date, general admission, etc. Are the numbers in red in the chart below in a part of that nine? So that's extra money on top of it. And like fitness revenue what is that? Is that program? Like, how do you know? Because someone pays $8 and they do all sorts of things. How do you know to allocate it to?
Go ahead.
Notice the whiny voice. At power to the state.
It's working, Tom. Go ahead, Tia. Tell us what's in fitness revenue.
You know, this is great. I'm happy to explain. So all of the second table below is reflective of all of our pre-registered programs. And included with admission is just that. That program is included with admission. So the revenue that we see for included with admission programs is captured in memberships and general admission. Anything that we do that is pre-registered, that people do not pay admission for, they pay on top of admission, are reflected in all of the programs that you see in the second table.
Great. Thank you. Any further questions on this lovely table, which makes all the information?
I don't accept the red and black looks opposite to me, but besides that, I'm with you.
That's the government part.
I know.
This work. Okay, I think we can keep going to you.
All right. Okay, so as we get into the summer programming statistics, this is where we've had a massive amount of data collected and analyzed for the programmers they collected, programmers analyze, and work with the data to be able to pull and extract information from. Because this is our first season, we're not in a place where this is finely tuned. This is still a very trial process for us. So any feedback as to some of the information you'd like to see is actually quite helpful. So as we talk about group swim lessons, we saw a very similar amount of programs being programs that ran between 2023 and 2024. The difference between number of programs offered is different than the number of programs that actually ran, because we do cancel a certain percentage of programs due to usually low enrollment. Sometimes there are staffing issues that prevent us from running a program, but more often than not, it's because we just don't have enough people to run the program. In swim lessons, we do try to merge programs together to allow programs to run like a swim lesson number 3 and a swim lesson number 4. We do sometimes merge together in order for us to be able to continue to run the program and not have to cancel. So in this first table, you'll see that we did offer a lot more programs in 2024 than 2023, but with the number of cancellations that we saw in 2024, the number of programs that actually were offered at the end of the day were very similar. So for 2025, we are looking to reduce the number of offerings to match the amount of registrations that we do see in the summer. It is also worth noting that we do see less registrations in summertime than we do in the rest of the year. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind as you start to see other reports roll in the subsequent seasons. In Nelson, fitness, I'm sorry, I'm just moving straight on to fitness unless you want me to dissect everything as part of this report.
Not too many questions, keep going to you.
Okay, fantastic. So in fitness, there is a high demand for included with admission programs, but because there is a less uptake of registered programs in the summer, so we do see in the summer programs don't run quite as well. People are busy, people are outside. So with this data collection process, we're actually able to start to do a little bit more as far as evaluation and making better decisions based on our data. So this is actually quite exciting. So we are going to use some of this information to help us refine our summer offerings to match the type of participation we see to help maximize the participation that we see in our facilities in the summertime. And, worth noting are some of these pie charts on page 5. And this is basically the first pie chart you see is the population distribution. So this is using the census data from 2021 to show what that distribution is of Nelson and area of the different age groups. And then down below on the 4 subsequent pie charts, you'll see how that age distribution looks based on our programming. So I thought this was a very cool representation to see what's happening here. And I did talk to one of the programmers that did this, and he was saying that these pie charts look a lot different in the other seasons. Summer is a little bit different. And that's mainly because of the different types of offerings that we see. We don't offer as many senior programs because we have instructors that aren't teaching over the summer, the ones that teach mainly senior programs. So obviously we're going to be looking at trying to make our population distribution look a little bit more like the first chart but we can't do that just for pre-reg and included with admission programs. We also have to look at our fitness services as a whole and see how that population is using some of the other facilities like our fitness center.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks very much. I'm curious, how do you know when an included with admission program is being utilized? How do we count that?
We take attendance.
Okay, thanks. Easy one.
Yeah, and I would say that we do the best job in Nelson as opposed to the other facilities. So we are looking to change our practices, and that's one of the other things that data collection is starting to prove, is that some of our data input practices need to change in order for us to be more consistent across the regional district.
Thanks very much.
Great. Okay. Go ahead, Tom. Tom's got a question.
Thank you. So coincidentally, over the last week, someone informed me that there was concern by people, and this, I think, I don't know if I can go by age category or not, and I'm bringing this forward as a form of a question because I didn't quite know how to pursue it at the time, and I hadn't talked to people in more detail. So, in regard to someone going to take a class and they're 62-year-old lady, woman, she doesn't want a season's membership, she doesn't want to lift weights, she doesn't swim, she just wants to take a class. And what I picked up from the person, I couldn't probe enough, is that person who doesn't have a season pass or monthly pass or whatever is at a disadvantage in gaining access to included with admission program. So I wanted to clarify that fact first to see if...
Sure, let's give Sept a chance.
See if we can riff off.
Is that Tia?
Yeah, through the chair. I mean, if somebody doesn't have a pass with us, they can just pay the dollar amount that is for their age group to use the facility. And that will gain the access to an included with admission program.
So the drop-in rate.
So Tia, through the chair, the question is more about when that person is paying the drop-in rate, that there's an advantage to the term-based membership for that space being reserved for in the class. So do you want to just describe that process to Director Newell and Commission?
So at this time, those who do hold memberships with our facility gain an extra 24 hours to reserve a spot in a included with admission class. We recognize that this is not the best and most equal access opportunity that we can provide. So this is under investigation with our membership structure program, and I know Tricia may want to add anything to that if she would like.
Thanks, Tia. So through the chair, so you may recall, I believe it was back at the last all rec meeting, we talked about the membership structure and sort of our next steps in needing to improve that process. One of the major holdups to what Tia just described as the process for people looking to hold their space for those included with admission services, because right now, if you're a term-based member, so a 1, 3, or 6 month member, you can sign up 24 hours in advance to hold your space. If you're a non-term based member, so punch pass holders or drop-in admission, it's an hour before that you can come and see if there's a space, and then you can pay your admission, go to your class. In this process, what we've learned is that one of the major problems that we have is how the system treats a 10-time pass. So in the membership structure, we talked about coming forward to you at a future all-rec meeting around an alternate plan to the punch pass so we could eliminate it. altogether with another option that may serve a similar purpose so that everybody could receive that same benefit. Because right now the system gets all confused and will double charge people and do all kinds of weird things with the punch pass in play. But that whole concept of fairness and equitable access to those services is very much a concern to us. But there's a big process, and you can imagine the sensitivity with some of the 20 or the punch pass holders as we try to move away from that. So we were going to come back with you with an alternate, which ultimately feeds that problem or help solve it.
Could I missed the all rec, I think I was something. Is the concept of an advantage to having a season's pass, is that being looked at
Yes.
as part of this process, not just the 10 punch pass?
Yeah, so through the chair, the whole membership structure is under review. So for example, I'll just throw an example up that I hope might resonate. So right now, a 6-month membership, which gives you the highest discount on a per use basis, is really only afforded by those who can pay a 6-month membership up front, because there is no payment option, there's no other plan. So you have to be in the category of being able to have the resources to pay up front for that 6-month membership. And therefore you then receive the greatest benefit, both financially, you get all other privileges like being able to register in advance. And we said, well, in actual fact, is that where the highest level of subsidy should go for those people? Because we've created an inequitable access to services or privilege by the term-based system. So we're looking at it as a whole flavor, and actually potentially, and again, this is all up for discussion, we haven't made a decision yet, if we can sort out a process that would allow people to have equal benefit regardless of ability to pay, and do away with the term membership where there's a discount based on the number of months you're willing to pay for, that it's more on a month-to-month basis, and then everybody can receive the same benefit while still also having the opportunity to pay on a drop-in basis. But right now, you can imagine that whole shift in administration and kind of what the public is used to seeing requires a lot of back-end thought and change management processes to do effectively. So there's a host of things, and you've touched on a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But as to why, so the person you were speaking to is absolutely correct. There is a benefit to somebody with a term-based membership, because lots of our included with admission services in Nelson will be full. Yeah, they're literally, you can show up an hour before and there will be no space for you. And of course, people get very frustrated when they go, well, I can't afford or I'm unable, and so therefore lose the opportunity to participate in something that a whole bunch of other people
Well,
receive.
what struck me, thank you for that. But what struck me in the conversation was, I don't want to lift weights. I don't swim, and I don't skate.
Right.
So I don't want a year pass. I just want to do programs. So you've touched on it to some extent, but I've never really thought of it in that way. And I've never thought of it as those most willing or most financially able to pay actually gain the greatest discount. So I never thought of that twist on it or turn on it. So
Right, it's expensive to be poor argument.
That's right.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and through the chair, like that's, well, what happens there is that, especially when, lots of our services are driven by what we see in the industry. But what sometimes we fail to recognize is the industry is working from a different point of view. So for example, if you go for a private membership, your private membership is discounted from a for-profit rate. It's actually driven in a different way. It has a different motivator behind it. But when we apply that to a public system, all of a sudden we turn things upside down. We're actually giving the greatest discount to the person with the ability to pay. versus it's a complete private system, and that's not even part of the equipment. That's not part of the equipment. But the funny part about that is that the public expects it too. So the public doesn't see the difference. So the public says, oh, if that costs $7, you must be making money at $7. And thus, if I do that 10 times, you should be able to give a little bit back to me for that versus seeing that actually what you're getting is a greater subsidy.
Mhm.
So those are kind of the things that, that we're dealing with, and that's why that change management piece is in particular so important to deal with.
Okay. Tia, I think you're on to summer camps.
Through the chair, thank you. So summer camps. Summer camps, as usual in Nelson, were a success. One thing that we did introduce this year that was new was a specialized camp. And so what this specialized camp was, it was for the 9 to 12 age group, and it was high quality instruction by a local professional. So we still have our camp leaders, we still have our camp monitors and supervisors, but we bring in a local professional to teach or instruct a specific area of interest. And so that is anywhere from art to dance to archery, circus arts, disc golf, paddling. And we did not actually anticipate that there would be such an overwhelming response to the public wanting this. And we ended up filling all of our camps with 57 on the wait list for all of our, like a total of 57 for all of our camps by the end of the summer. So this is something that we are looking to explore for 2025, to move some of that 9 to 12-year-old age group more into a specific camping experience, as opposed to a more general camping experience where they just do a whole bunch of different things. That's not to say that the specific camps are doing just that one thing, but there is a high focus of that one area of interest. So the younger age groups will still maintain a general camp experience. So aside from that, registration was great this year, and moving into 2025, we are going to be also adding a secondary 7 to 10-year-old option, because we did see quite a high number of 7 to 12-year-old campers being sort of like the highest registration age group. So we wanted to be able to meet that demand for 2025. So these are some of the things that we're looking for as far as summer camps. But in general, we feel like the beginning of this data collection process went really well. We're very, very happy to hear some feedback of what else you may like to see as far as reporting back on programs. We are obviously limited to some of the things that we are going to be able to report on, but we do obviously try our best to see what we can get within the limitations of our software system. In the future, you will start to see other types of data come through. This was our first kick at it, with included with admission and registered programs. But in the future, you will start to see things around facility rentals and utilization rates, more information around leisure access program and other events and things like that. So that's the programming update.
Go ahead, Kate.
Thanks very much. If we're looking at fun things to collect data-wise that your system may be able to collect, I have a curiosity about postal codes. Is that something that we can look at in terms of pre-registered programming and youth camp programming?
Who wants to talk about postal?
Through the chair,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
I'm very happy to talk about postal codes.
Sure.
Yes, those in our system who have addresses, we do have their postal codes. So we are able to sort by postal code. Obviously, it is very much an extra filtered step, but yes, we do have access to postal codes for our registrants. And so we are able to potentially provide a distribution of where the campers come from. Is this for specifically camps, or would you like to see this in other program areas?
I think it'd be interesting for anything that's pre-registered. I don't think anyone, we all know that the facility is a public good for the entire public, whether it be tourists or folks that live nearby but aren't in City of Nelson and defined area E and F. But it would be interesting to know. I think that would be useful for us to see what that looks like. We have visitors that come as well. My cousins come and we all go together. But it'd be interesting to know. Although that's drop-in, so you would not be able to see that.
That's where my question lies. So just help me understand when we capture a full address, because that postal code data will very much be geared towards whatever group
The
of people.
pre-registered only, I think, right?
Is that true? Like if you're pre-registered, we're definitely provide address, because I don't think all pre-registered programs need to provide an address.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Tia. Who gives us their full address information? When do we ask for that?
Generally, yes. If they have a client account with us, they do require a postal code. There are times where some slip through the cracks, and so there may be a small percentage that we do not collect, that we do not have addresses for, but that's very far and few between. One of our programmers had indicated to me, though, that the postal code breakdown for the different areas is we would have to find that subsequent Canada Post breakout of what postal codes reside in which areas, like the Blewett or the Proctor, because they all are technically Nelson. So we would have to determine which postal codes belong to which of those different areas.
You need to create a grouping set of some sort. Go ahead.
Yeah, so through the chair, I just want to caution the conversation on postal codes. So for example, like what Tia was suggesting, like if there was interest in knowing about a specific service area, like camps might be a good example. That's probably a manageable thing if we have the other information that, like Tia said, tells us what postal codes are where and who does what.
Yeah.
Just to recognize it doesn't draw that parallel easily. That is all manual work, where what Tia, correct me if I'm wrong, is trying to do with this data collection project is pull information that's readily available that helps us make good informed decisions on providing service versus creating a process to manually have to add or collate or do whatever we need to do for multiple service areas. So say, for example, the leisure access program might be a good one to say, well, where are people coming from? We could do that with postal codes because it was a manageable number of people. If we tried to do that with memberships, it would be a colossal challenge. But sometimes what it can do, again, in some situations, I don't want to get too deep into that rabbit hole, can paint a bit of a picture. So leisure access to me would be a good one where you say, yeah, we want to make sure that people from all over are actually aware of the program or utilizing it. It's more that if we said we want to take the whole Nelson and District community services service and analyze that by postal code, I can tell you that there is no system that in what we have or how we could extrapolate information that would do that effectively across services and or be able to identify unique people. So in a different municipality that I worked for, we had a membership system that in order to gain certain levels of fees, you had to have this membership. So that was what painted a picture as to what level of use might exist across other services, but that was the only one that we managed postal code information off of. So it's just, so yes, just because the database collects it doesn't mean that we can extrapolate it effectively. So I just want to caution that conversation.
Yeah, it might be something to think about where it would be useful to ensure that the public is getting the benefit that they are paying into, and that we're serving the people that we need to serve, right? And I agree with you, the leisure access is probably a good one to make sure that those folks can be hardest to reach. Yeah, just something to put in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Okay, postal codes, great. Tia, continue.
Oh, through the chair, I was
I'm
done.
done. Okay. So on this theme that we kind of ask questions as we go along, we'll just move receipt of this report. Thanks, Kate. So that's great. Let's move us on to our verbal update.
Yeah, through the chair. So Civic Arena, which actually says Civic Arena allocation. I realized that probably is wrong. It's the Nelson District Community Complex Arena allocation. We held a user group meeting last Thursday. So it was from staff who was in attendance. It was myself, Tricia, Sarah Fuhr, our communications, and Dana Kennigan, who is one of our programmers, whose area this year is focusing on arenas. The meeting went well. There, of course, was stuff that blew up Friday morning. And what that was in regards to a comment that seems to have been made when we had a little bit of break in this room. So I'll just describe what we did at the meeting. So at the meeting, we had it was an invitation to all user groups that regularly book the facility. So if somebody is just booking a birthday party in November, they weren't invited to the meeting. So all regular users were at the meeting. I gave a brief explanation about the closure and what to expect, and also what to expect for the remainder of the year. So the fact that, for example, that even after December 15th, that if weather conditions and snow load conditions are correct, that the Civic Center could have a daily or a multiple day closure or a partial day closure.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but just because I'm on city council, if we could try really hard to say Civic Arena.
Oh, sorry. Did I just say Civic?
You said center.
Center? Oh,
Because center is like the front half.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Thanks.
Okay.
Civic Arena. That's just a little bit.
I know.
How are we going to sneak the building into the service if we do that?
Okay, so that the Civic Arena would be under those conditions. So we had that discussion. Of course, there was a little bit of a discussion about why was it just now? We talked about that projects are complicated and these kinds of things happen during projects. So at that point, we described a little bit about what our priorities were. So we went through our priorities as defined by the allocation policy. So we went through those. Very clear that RDCK programs for youth and families was the #1 priority. Then it was community group youth was the next priority, and then it falls out from there to adults. There's actually 8 priorities, and adults are 6, but number priority 7 and 8 don't matter in this case. So the strategy was to separate off the youth. And so Tricia and Sarah took the youth groups, which really is minor hockey and skate club, into the Kokanee room so that they could work on being efficient utilization of ice. That was their goal. And I want to say, maybe Tricia should say, because she was in that room. It sounded like it was they worked very hard and they cooperated.
Yeah, it was through the chair. It was amazing. They were fully understanding of the difficult situation they were in, and with a small amount of, questions to consider, they ran with it, and by the end of about 45 minutes or so, had a plan that they thought they could collectively work with, and that meant juggling and supporting each other. It was actually a really wonderful thing to experience. So if they're listening, on behalf of staff, it was a very positive outcome to a challenge.
Great. So they got first dibs.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
in the adult user group room was myself and Dana Canagan. And I would suggest that through most of that, there was a very good understanding of the adults that things were tough. So that piece is the same. Where there was a little bit of an issue, and you know what, and I look back now and I go, I think I probably should remove someone from the meeting at that point in time. And the funny part is that's not what was complained about. So just the two things are different. So when the youth had gone off, I talked to the adults about our priorities for adult groups. And that the priorities for adult groups would be that we were trying to ensure that as many adults have an opportunity to participate during this period. So there was a talk about groups expanding how they were maybe doing their program. So for example, there's a group that's called Lunch Bucket Hockey. They've increased the amount of people that could participate in that program. That was one response to that request. The youth very quickly came back and said, adults can have the ice starting at 10 o'clock. We know for sure we can get all I should not say all. We can fit, they did not want to go later, and that they would fit their highest priority program. So everybody's impacted by it. So that adults could go, that they would be 10 o'clock or later. We had a discussion. I was very clear that although our present allocation policy does not have gender equity language specifically in it, that a goal of the evening was that adult time for women was a priority for us to ensure. So that was made. During that conversation, one comment was, so you're suggesting male discrimination. That comment was made. I stopped it. I said, no, we are far beyond that kind of a conversation, and we continued. Possibly I should have asked that person to leave, but it was the first instance of it, and we try to do correction and then continue. So we continued the conversation. It became clear that the only groups that were interested in actually organizing that type of a time, so 10 o'clock and later, was two men's groups, Kootenay Lake Recreational Hockey and Gentlemen's Hockey. And in fact, using those times would not provide them all of their time that they would have previously been allocated. They agreed immediately to rotate. So they looked at it as Monday to Friday. They did not talk about Saturday and Sunday. They looked at Monday to Friday, and they said 1 week, one group will get 3. Next week, one will get 2. 3, 2, 3, 2, 2. So they came to that understanding very quickly. So that was very, very good. So that was led by Matt Mint and Tony Musa. So that was fantastic. We did not allocate Sundays or time on the weekend. That's still left. And in fact, at this point in time, I'm even unsure if I'm going to have enough information for Thursday. The afternoon times stayed as Lunch Bucket Hockey in their spot. They've agreed to allow more people to participate in that program. and the women were given their time. So that they had a time on Tuesday that was kept. There's no sharing of it. That was the time. That was the time they had in the regular allocation and the time now. There is a possibility that if Sunday evenings are not used for youth games, that we may have that some time available there. So that was that. I think that's a pretty good overview of that evening. And we have another meeting scheduled for Thursday with the adult groups. I've told the youth you do not need to come to that. Oh, geez, that's tomorrow. Yeah, sorry. I'm still on so many meetings this week that I forgot. But yeah, so tomorrow evening we can pick up that conversation with the adults.
And if you don't have all the information, it's a potential then for a third meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so
Okay.
1 to 2 more meetings left to get this whole right. Kate, you had a question or two?
Yeah. Tell me about how you went about figuring out the RDCK and public programming. Like, which ones of, how did that all land?
So right now, there's still, so the only programs for the RDCK, so when we went to the table,
Yeah.
the only programs we didn't remove were anything that were family or youth oriented. Those programs remained. If it was adult orientated, we put that back into the pool of available time to be discussed. So that was the same for youth. So youth could then consider that time. What we also said was that for tournament weekends, so for those weekends, and so really the community event piece was really only applies to minor hockey in this case. Skate Club has no programs planned, or sorry, no community event planned for this part of the year. What we said, what I was very clear about, was that we would cancel public skating on those days as long as the youth fully utilize the ice. And what we meant by that was ice is available at 6 a.m. You start at 6 a.m. You don't start at 8 and then knock out public skating when you didn't use the 2 hours that were available earlier. So that was, I believe, clearly understood. The comments that we got back from the youth representatives is they were very happy with the way we set those pieces up. So that's where, so when we left that meeting, we did not believe there was going to be any, well, sorry, that's not the right thing to say. We knew there would be an impact to tournaments and that the Civic Center wasn't available. There were 4 tournaments planned between October 15th, I can't remember, I think the first one was a week later. There would be 4 tournaments pre-Christmas. I did find out last night, I always want to hesitate. The news that I heard last night, and I was confirmed by the president, was that Nelson Minor Hockey had a board meeting last night or the night before, and that they canceled all of their tournaments. And in fact, the message that I got is that they canceled them for the entire year because of the uncertainty of the Civic Center with the snow load issue, the Civic Center arena with the snow load issue going into January to March.
That's really great information. Thanks for filling me in on that. And I'm curious about like the RDCK like programming guide. So like the families shinny and everything that's printed in there, how much of that will have to be like crossed off on a whiteboard at the front of the building that people may or may not know about?
Yeah, so that piece we're still in the process. So for example, right now, there's been no, as far as I know, anything that was family or youth is still okay. We did have a request, and Dana Kamigan is working through this with Skate Club and Minor Hockey about the movement of one program. I think it's on Thursday night, moving it to end 15 minutes earlier. So I think Dana found out about that. Well, I only got that request Monday night. Dana and I talked about it briefly at our staff meeting yesterday. That was all day yesterday, and Dana was going to reach out to those two groups just to have a discussion about that. So at this time, anything that was family or youth, there is no impact. The biggest thing will be if public skating needs to be impacted. So those are the ones that are that Sunday time slot in particular. And just so everyone knows, minor hockey didn't come to a rash decision. One of their other problems that they had are their commitments to, as we know, like hockey now is not so, it is a community thing. It's a Nelson area thing. It's a Castle Garden area thing. But all of those are interrelated now. They rely on being able to use each other's arenas for games. And so that regular schedule, I also know from the minor hockey president, that even just trying to fit those games that they're required to conduct between now and Christmas, those league games, was going to be very difficult if they had tournaments in that schedule as well.
And I think that's because there's more teams than there was 5 or 6 years ago. There's a lot more teams. Yeah.
So those are the kinds of things that they're struggling. They're still struggling.
League games are really difficult to schedule. And as you know, the scheduling for the league, which includes like Spokane and Midway and McCusk, happens not yet.
Correct.
And so that's a challenge as well.
So I did reach out on Friday. Nelson Minor Hockey was very good. We had a conversation on Thursday night. I reached out to the what would be called West Kootenay Minor Hockey on Friday afternoon. Had about a half-hour conversation with West Kootenay Minor Hockey about how they really need to be reconsidering this, that we are not in a plentiful situation with ice time, where we're in scarcity, and that planning needs to move up. Or else it makes it very difficult to manage all the different types of uses that happen in arena. And I pointed out to them that this year it's the Civic Center Arena. Next year, we know we are down an arena in Castletown. Area, a Pioneer Arena.
There should be an app for that.
Yes. So that's where we're at. We're committed to working with the groups through this, right until we get to the best possible solution, which I think we all understand in this room, and I believe that the user groups understand. That doesn't mean there will be groups that will have no ice time.
Okay. Any other questions?
Did you say there will? No. Sorry, Chair.
Okay.
The last comment, that doesn't mean there will be some groups will not have ice time. Correct. Is that last statement? Thanks, Chair. I'm blurted.
Yeah, no question.
It's okay. It's really important to say to make sure we say it out loud, because that is a result that will happen.
Okay. Great.
That's another way of saying one arena is not enough for the demand of the ice from the previous year. Like even if you smushed everything from 6 a.m. to midnight, all the requests, it wouldn't actually fit in one arena.
I think, it's actually, that becomes a different question.
Does it?
Yeah, it does, because it also goes to, right now, we're organized, so here it is. I think there's two things. Demand shouldn't necessarily define service delivery. So for example, there is enough demand to build a brand new pool. That is also true. So that is the question that we have to have with the public. The public actually gets to determine how much of any one thing are we willing to provide. So I think there's that part of the equation, but also the fact that because the groups are organized in these silos, it doesn't necessarily distribute that time across adults. So for example, there is a strong possibility that although those two adult groups are switching times, that there are individuals who are able to access that 3 times a week no matter what, because they're involved in both groups. So that kind of inefficiency exists in the system. So it's true and not true. We also know that 2 arenas are underutilized. So previously, last year, I could tell you I walked into NBCC and the lights are off in the morning on a Saturday. When I grew up, that never happened. Those kinds of things also exist when there's 2 arenas. So I think that's where that complexity of that conversation with the public comes in. So it's true, and I think, yeah, it's complicated.
And expensive.
Especially especially that 4 to 9 p.m. period. Yeah, everybody wants to be in 4 to 9.
And we don't even have enough parking.
That's true.
Well, we'll just create some more land. Parkades. Of course, go straight up.
That's the key. Go down.
Go down. Park on the roof. Any other questions out there in the cloud? In the room? Seeing none, let's move us on to public time. Any questions from the public? We've got a phone number on there. We've got our observer recording. Anything else? Seeing none of that. Having a bit of a pregnant pause. On the action items from the previous meeting, I was wondering if we had any concept of the item around unifying registration. Investor creating a management agreement with the City of Nelson to unify field bookings with the use groups.
And
Through the chair, thought it was one.
yeah, sorry, I've been preoccupied.
Joe, through the chair, I had talked with city staff about that in the spring, and in fact, I think we had talked about that when this came up at the commission even last year, and I think that we didn't quite get that together in time for this season, but I can follow up on the email chain from spring and catch up to that one.
Yeah, this is from April 2023 originally, but yeah, thinking for spring next year, if we can get to that place where we've got a single service desk, I think that's a benefit. Okay, great. Love that. Then can I have someone move adjournment?
Oh, I can.
Okay, Tom and Kate, no objections? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
And I appreciate all the hard work.
Look at this, Joe.
Teresa, is there anything you want to talk to the chair and I about? Like, are you good before we head off?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks very much.
Squirrel Creek.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Are they in charge of that?
Oh,
They have to be doing everything.
oh,